Welcome, beautiful Sigma ladies. Some people think silence is weakness, until they realize it's the sound of someone calculating your downfall. They thought shaming her would be easy, a few snide words, a public jab, a dose of mockery to make her shrink. But they forgot something crucial. Sigma females don't crumble under ridicule. They restructure reality around it. According to behavioral psychology, people who stay calm under social pressure tend to gain dominance in perception, because composure, not noise, defines control. So when a Sigma female gets shamed, she doesn't panic. She observes. She studies every smirk, every whisper, every cheap attempt at humiliation, not to react, but to remember. And while her enemies are busy giggling, she's busy evolving. By the time they realize it, she's already rewritten the story, and they're starring as the cautionary tale. The funny part, they still don't know whether she's punishing them or just living her best life. And honestly, neither does she. It's just that both seem to have the same effect: regret. Number 1. She makes people remember you for the wrong reasons. She makes people remember you for the wrong reasons. That's the quiet genius of a Sigma female's revenge. She doesn't need to lift a finger to destroy your image. You'll do it for her, slowly, unknowingly, and very publicly. When someone tries to shame her, they expect her to react, to defend, to cry, to snap. But she doesn't. She just watches. That unnerving calm throws everyone off because it exposes one brutal truth. She's not fighting for approval, she's watching you lose yours. The thing about Sigma females is that they understand human perception better than most. They know people are not loyal to truth. They're loyal to energy. So when you try to humiliate her, she doesn't chase validation. She simply keeps her composure so perfectly that people start to question you instead. Every time you try to make her look small, your words sound bitter, exaggerated, and desperate. It's psychological chess, and you don't even realize you've already lost the board. The more you talk about her, the more suspicious you look. You begin to sound obsessed while she stays grounded, focused, and unbothered. People start whispering, not about her, but about what's wrong with you. Her silence becomes your exposure. Her restraint becomes your downfall. She doesn't have to correct a single lie. Her aura of quiet self-respect does it for her. And just like that, your credibility begins to rot from the inside out. It's not accidental, it's precision. Sigma females know that in a world of loud egos, dignity is the loudest statement. They know that patience always turns the tables, and when it does, it hits harder than revenge ever could. So while you're busy trying to prove a point, she's becoming the point, the living embodiment of what strength looks like when it doesn't need applause. Months later, you'll notice how the story changed. People don't even remember what she was accused of. They just remember how unshakable she looked, and how childish you seemed trying to bring her down. That's her quiet victory. She doesn't destroy reputations. She lets people destroy theirs while trying to touch hers. Number 2. She doesn't need to expose you. You'll do it yourself. She doesn't need to expose you. You'll do it yourself. That's the deadly calm of a Sigma female. She doesn't waste time digging up your secrets or trying to prove what kind of person you are. She knows human nature too well to bother. All she has to do is step back, stay quiet, and let your own actions become your confession. You think you're in control, but the moment you try to bring her down, you start unraveling in front of everyone. When you attack a Sigma female, you reveal more about yourself than you ever intended. You expose your insecurity, your jealousy, your obsession with her strength. She knows this, which is why she never argues. She lets your behavior speak louder than anything she could say. The more you talk, the clearer your motives become, and people start to see that your hate is just disguised admiration. That's when your mask begins to slip. She doesn't play defense. She lets the truth unfold naturally. She knows you'll overreact. You'll start explaining too much, trying to justify your every move, and in doing so, you'll make everyone suspicious. That's how Sigma females operate, through controlled silence that amplifies other people's noise. Her calm makes your chaos visible. Her stillness exposes your instability. And suddenly, the person you tried to make look foolish becomes the one people respect. The beauty of it all is that she never needs to say, "I told you so." You'll prove her right without realizing it. You'll post too much, talk too much, gossip too loudly, trying to paint her in a bad light. And the more you do, the more obvious your insecurity becomes. People start to side with her because real strength doesn't need to perform. By the time the truth fully surfaces, it's too late. You've already lost credibility, and she hasn't even spoken a word. That's the silent power of a Sigma female. She knows that exposure doesn't require evidence, just patience. You thought you could destroy her reputation, but in trying so hard, you destroyed your own. Number 3, she never confronts. She reconfigures. She never confronts. She reconfigures. A Sigma female knows that arguing with a fool is like wrestling in mud. Both end up dirty, but only one of them was desperate for attention. She understands that some people thrive on chaos because it's the only way they feel relevant. So she doesn't engage, doesn't explain, doesn't try to correct your twisted version of events. Instead, she quietly redesigns her world in a way that makes your presence unnecessary, and eventually impossible. When she senses toxicity, she doesn't fight it. She outgrows it. She adjusts her routines, shifts her energy, and rewires her boundaries until the space you once occupied becomes uninhabitable for your kind of noise. You won't even notice it at first. The calls stop, the invitations fade. Her energy becomes selective, and you find yourself locked out of a world that now feels colder without her in it. That's how she wins, not with confrontation, but with quiet elimination. She doesn't believe in punishing people. She believes in restructuring her peace. Her silence is not passive. It's strategic. It's the moment she stops feeding the problem and starts nourishing herself. When she withdraws, it's not retreat. It's renovation. She clears her emotional space like someone renovating a house. Everything that doesn't match her peace gets discarded without ceremony. And when she's done, her life functions so smoothly that even you can feel the difference. You'll try to reach out, to explain, to test if the door is still open. But it's not. She doesn't slam it. She removes it entirely. The air around her shifts, the energy changes, and you realize too late that you've been quietly phased out. There's no argument to win, no apology big enough to reverse it, because she's already built a version of her life that operates perfectly without you in it. That's the Sigma female's brilliance. She never wastes time trying to change fools. She just upgrades her world until they no longer fit in it. And when you finally feel that chill of being excluded, you'll understand the quiet cruelty of her peace. It's the kind that doesn't need revenge, only distance. Number 4, she turns betrayal into brand energy. She turns betrayal into brand energy. That's what separates a Sigma female from everyone else. She doesn't just survive pain, she recycles it into power. When someone betrays her, they think they've weakened her foundation. What they don't realize is that they've just handed her new material to build something stronger, sharper, and infinitely more magnetic. Every heartbreak, every rumor, every act of humiliation becomes a piece of the story that fuels her rise. She knows how to turn wounds into wisdom and scars into strategy. Instead of sitting in self-pity, she studies the betrayal like a case file. What went wrong, why it happened, what it revealed about her own strength. Then she re-emerges with lessons others can't buy. That's the difference between a Sigma female and everyone else. She doesn't seek sympathy, she seeks evolution. The same people who tried to humiliate her end up watching her transform that pain into something unforgettable. Betrayal to her is content. It's character development. It's emotional data. She doesn't hide it. She refines it. When she speaks, there's an unshakable confidence in her voice, because her wisdom isn't theoretical. It's earned through fire. People feel that authenticity, and it draws them to her. Her story becomes her brand, one of endurance, intelligence, and unbothered power. Meanwhile, the people who betrayed her fade into irrelevance because their names carry nothing, no lesson, no growth, no evolution, just bitterness. Every Sigma female knows the quiet secret of revenge. You don't destroy your enemies, you outlast them. And when you rise with grace after betrayal, your success exposes their smallness more brutally than confrontation ever could. She turns pain into fuel and uses it to build a platform so high that even her past can't reach her. That's what makes her unforgettable. So when they tried to shame her, they didn't bury her. They branded her. They gave her the contrast she needed to shine even brighter. Her power now carries the fingerprints of everyone who underestimated her, and their names remain where they belong, forgotten in the footnotes of her story. Number 5. She understands the currency of dignity. She understands the currency of dignity, and that's why she never trades it for drama. While most people rush to defend their image or prove their point, the Sigma female knows that respect is earned through restraint. She doesn't shout to be understood or fight to be seen as right. She simply carries herself with a kind of grace that doesn't need public validation. Her calm becomes her credibility. Her composure becomes her power. And that quiet dignity makes everyone question the person who tried to tarnish her. When chaos breaks out, she stays centered. Not because she's emotionless, but because she knows that losing control is the fastest way to lose respect. She lets her actions do the talking. While others scramble to explain themselves or throw verbal punches, she keeps her energy expensive and her words selective. People notice that. They see how she doesn't fold under pressure or reduce herself to someone else's level, and that's when the shift happens. The focus moves away from the gossip and lands on her poise. Her dignity is not arrogance, it's self-respect in motion. It's the understanding that peace is louder than pettiness. She knows the moment she starts arguing with a fool, she's already handed them her power. So she doesn't engage in low-level noise. She lets silence speak on her behalf. And that silence, instead of weakness, reads as authority. It's the kind of stillness that unnerves people because it forces them to reflect on their own behavior. Over time, that dignity becomes her reputation. People remember how she carried herself when others were losing their minds. They remember her restraint more than they remember the rumors. That's how Sigma females win the long game, not through constant reaction, but through consistent composure. And while her enemies exhaust themselves trying to look strong, she simply is strong, effortlessly, quietly, and undeniably. She understands that in a world addicted to loudness, dignity is the rarest luxury. It's her invisible crown, and the moment she wears it, even her silence commands respect. Number 6. She turns your public stage into her private laboratory. She turns your public stage into her private laboratory. While you're busy putting on a performance to embarrass her, she's quietly gathering data. Not about what you say, but why you're saying it. Every gesture, every smirk, every insult becomes part of her study. She's not hurt, she's observing. She's decoding the roots of your need for validation, tracing the outline of your insecurity, and mapping out your emotional weaknesses with the precision of someone who's seen this kind of performance too many times before. A Sigma female doesn't react because she's already analyzing the bigger picture. She understands that people who try to shame others in public are often driven by deep, unhealed wounds. So while you're busy trying to make her look small, she's dissecting your behavior like a psychologist in heels. She doesn't get angry, she gets clarity. And that clarity gives her an advantage you'll never see coming. By the time your ego is done basking in the attention, she already knows exactly where to strike, and she won't even have to lift a finger. Her revenge isn't loud, it's surgical. She knows which words will haunt you, which truths will expose you, and which moments will remind everyone else who the real fool is. But the beauty of it is that she rarely needs to use what she learns. Just knowing it gives her control. You may have the stage, but she owns the room, because power doesn't belong to the one talking. It belongs to the one who's quietly reading every move. What you call humiliation, she calls research. What you think is a win, she treats as a psychological experiment. She takes the chaos you create and turns it into understanding of human nature, of manipulation, and of herself. That's why Sigma females always rise from betrayal and public attacks stronger, calmer, and more precise. They collect lessons instead of grudges, and the next time you try to play your game, she won't stop you. She'll just let you perform again, knowing you're teaching her how to destroy your ego without ever breaking her silence. Number 7. She doesn't retaliate, she reconstructs. She doesn't retaliate, she reconstructs. A Sigma female knows that reacting gives power away, and she has no interest in fighting battles that prove nothing. Instead of clapping back, she steps back. Not out of fear, but out of strategy. While you're celebrating your little victory, she's already rewriting the narrative. She doesn't fight the fire. She rebuilds the room so that next time, the fire has no oxygen. That's her power. Transformation, not reaction. When someone wrongs her, she doesn't chase revenge. She studies the situation with the same precision a master architect uses to redesign a broken structure. She figures out what made the betrayal possible, the cracks, the misplaced trust, the blind spots, and she fixes them. She rebuilds her life, her circle, and her energy in a way that makes it impossible for that kind of chaos to touch her again. You think you hurt her, but really, you handed her a blueprint for her next level. The most fascinating thing about her is how gracefully she turns pain into order. She doesn't throw insults or post cryptic messages. She simply upgrades. She makes her silence so intentional, her growth so visible, that the people who tried to destroy her end up feeling irrelevant. Her evolution becomes their punishment. They become the moral of her story, the example she doesn't even have to name because everyone already knows. Her power lies in reconstruction, not of others, but of herself. Every disappointment becomes a redesign, every betrayal a lesson in structure. She doesn't waste time asking why it happened. She focuses on ensuring it never can again. That's why people respect her. She never looks broken, even when she's rebuilding. She's the calm after her own storm, the proof that revenge isn't necessary when you can turn destruction into a masterpiece. By the time you realize what she's done, it's too late. You're the ghost of an old version of her life, and she's already built something new, stronger, quieter, and far above your reach. She didn't destroy you. She simply reconstructed herself until you no longer mattered. Number 8. She knows the art of social judo. She knows the art of social judo. A Sigma female never wastes strength trying to overpower people. She simply redirects their energy until they trip over their own moves. When someone tries to embarrass her or twist her image, she doesn't fight it head-on. She lets the situation breathe just long enough for the truth to reveal itself. Her calm makes people curious, her silence creates mystery, and before long, the same gossip that was meant to destroy her turns into the reason people start paying attention to her. She understands that perception is power, and she's a master at letting others expose themselves. When someone speaks badly of her, she doesn't rush to defend herself, because she knows human psychology. People always question the one who talks too much. So while her critics keep talking, she keeps living, thriving, and glowing in plain sight. That contrast alone shifts public opinion. Her composure makes their noise sound insecure. Her stillness makes their desperation obvious. The harder people try to make her look bad, the more intriguing she becomes. There's something about the way she handles tension, no panic, no drama, no emotional leakage, that makes people rethink everything they heard. Suddenly, the gossip looks petty, and she looks powerful. That's how she wins without saying a word. She doesn't crush opponents. She lets their own actions collapse under the weight of her calm. Social judo is her secret weapon, quiet, elegant, and devastatingly effective. She knows that in a world obsessed with reaction, control is the ultimate flex. So she doesn't feed the fire. She lets it burn itself out while she walks through the smoke untouched. And when the dust settles, she's not only unharmed, she's more respected, more mysterious, and more magnetic than before. That's her art. She uses what was meant to harm her as momentum. Your gossip gives her exposure. Your envy builds her aura. Your attempts to break her only confirm her power. By the time you realize it, you've done half her work for her. She just stood still and let your energy build her legend. Number 9. She understands shame better than you ever will. She understands shame better than you ever will. That's why your attempt to humiliate her falls flat before it even lands. You can't shame a Sigma female. Not because she's immune to judgment, but because she's already faced the parts of herself most people spend their lives running from. She's done the internal work, dissected her flaws, confronted her mistakes, owned her contradictions. There's nothing left for you to use against her, because she's already used it to build herself. When others hide behind perfection, she stands firmly in authenticity. She knows that shame loses its grip the moment you stop pretending. So when someone tries to drag her through the mud, she doesn't panic. She's been there before, and she's learned to plant flowers in it. Her confidence doesn't come from arrogance, it comes from integration. She's made peace with her darkness, and that peace terrifies people who still hide from theirs. You can't humiliate someone who has already sat with their demons and made them speak. That's what makes her dangerous in the quietest way. The things that would destroy most people only refine her. Every attempt to expose her becomes another opportunity for her to show how deeply she understands herself. You can't manipulate her with guilt, because she's already processed it. You can't silence her with judgment, because she's already forgiven herself. That level of self-awareness makes her untouchable. While others crumble under public scrutiny, she remains calm, even amused. She knows that the same people pointing fingers have their own hidden mess. They just haven't had the courage to face it yet. And that's what separates her. She's not flawless, she's fearless about her flaws. So when you try to weaponize shame against her, it backfires. Your insults sound shallow, your accusations lose sting, and you end up looking desperate for attention. She simply stands there, unshaken, unashamed, and quietly powerful. Because the truth is, you can't control a woman who has turned her own darkness into armor. She doesn't fear exposure. She is exposure, honest, raw, and free. Number 10. She'll let you drown in the attention you wanted. She'll let you drown in the attention you wanted. That's the cold genius of a Sigma female. She never denies a narcissist what they crave. She gives it to them in excess. She knows that some people aren't driven by truth or justice, but by the hunger to be seen. So she steps aside, lets them perform, and watches as they mistake her silence for weakness. What they don't realize is that she's setting the perfect stage for their self-destruction. Narcissists feed on reaction, but she refuses to give them the satisfaction. Instead, she gives them space, enough rope to perform, enough attention to expose themselves. She knows the psychology of ego too well. The moment you give a narcissist the spotlight, they'll overplay their part. They'll talk too much, exaggerate too far, and eventually reveal the insecurity behind their confidence. By then, she doesn't have to defend herself. Everyone sees through them. Her silence doesn't mean surrender, it means strategy. She understands that nothing ruins a pretender faster than prolonged attention. When someone is fake, the spotlight becomes poison. Their mask starts to slip under pressure, their lies start to contradict, and their performance becomes unbearable to watch. The same audience that once laughed with them now starts laughing at them, and she doesn't have to lift a single finger. They unravel all on their own. That's the Sigma female's power. She uses patience as her weapon. She doesn't argue, she doesn't expose, she simply observes and waits, because she knows time always reveals truth. The longer you talk, the clearer your intentions become. The louder you shout, the smaller you start to look. And when the crowd finally sees who you really are, her silence turns into a mirror that reflects your entire act. In the end, you realize too late that she never needed to fight you. She only needed to let you talk long enough to ruin yourself. You wanted the spotlight so badly, she gave it to you. And under that light, your arrogance became visible, your lies became obvious, and your ego drowned in its own reflection. Number 11. She doesn't forgive. She evolves beyond you. She doesn't forgive. She evolves beyond you. That's the quiet terror of a Sigma female. When someone tries to hurt her, she doesn't waste time crafting excuses or seeking closure. She doesn't even think about retaliation in the way you expect. Instead, she metabolizes every betrayal, every insult, every underhanded move into fuel for her own growth. By the time you're waiting for a reaction, she's already moved into a version of herself where you no longer exist. This isn't moral superiority or holier-than-thou posturing. It's practical, brutal efficiency. She recognizes that some people are simply too small to occupy the same plane of life as her, and instead of fighting them, she removes them quietly, mentally, emotionally, and sometimes physically, from her orbit. You can shout, plead, or schemingly linger, but she's operating in a reality you can't touch. You're irrelevant by design, not by accident. She evolves silently, in ways that leave no trace for you to attack. The energy you wasted trying to shame or manipulate her, she converts it into lessons, strategies, and self-mastery. Betrayal becomes insight. Conflict becomes wisdom. People who once thought they could control her find themselves increasingly irrelevant as her presence grows stronger, more magnetic, and more untouchable. What makes her so formidable is that her evolution is invisible until it's undeniable. You won't see the shift in real time. You only notice it when her life has moved past yours so completely that your interference feels absurd. You realize too late that the woman you tried to humiliate no longer inhabits the same dimension as your petty schemes. She doesn't carry grudges. She doesn't need to. You simply cease to matter, quietly erased by her progress and her mastery of self. That's the brilliance of a Sigma female. She doesn't seek revenge because she doesn't need it. She grows, she ascends, and by the time you even comprehend what's happening, she's already a higher version of herself, untouchable, unstoppable, and entirely beyond your reach. Number 12. She makes you realize you picked the wrong opponent. She makes you realize you picked the wrong opponent. Sigma females aren't strong in the obvious, flashy way. They don't need to yell, threaten, or prove themselves in front of everyone to show power. Their strength is quiet, calculated, and relentless. It's the kind of intelligence that catches people off guard because it isn't performative. You thought you could manipulate her, embarrass her, or control her with your petty games, but she's already 10 steps ahead. From the moment you try to shame her, she observes, deciphers, and maps out your behavior. Every insult, every jab, every attempt at provocation becomes a data point. She studies the psychology behind your actions, your weaknesses, and your need for validation. By the time you think you've landed a blow, she's already transformed your energy into her advantage. Your effort to control her now only exposes your own flaws to everyone watching, including yourself. You'll start noticing it too late. The calm way she handles your attacks, the subtle precision in her responses, not the words she says, but the way she carries herself, it's disarming. People around you start seeing your desperation while she radiates composure. Her intelligence makes her untouchable in ways that aren't obvious until the consequences unfold. She doesn't fight on your level because she doesn't need to. Your games are small, repetitive, and transparent, while her strategy is invisible and surgical. That contrast makes you regret ever assuming she would play. You picked the wrong opponent, and now your miscalculation is painfully obvious. By the end, it's not just that you failed to shame her, it's that your attempt highlights your own weakness. While you flounder trying to prove yourself, she's already grown beyond the situation. She turns your attacks into lessons, her silence into a weapon, and your misjudgment into a cautionary tale you'll never forget. In short, she doesn't just win. She makes you realize you were never equipped to even try. In the end, trying to shame a Sigma female is never what it seems. What appears to be a moment of weakness on her part is actually the calm before a storm you will never see coming. Every attempt to humiliate her, every jab meant to destabilize her, is quietly analyzed, transformed, and redirected in ways that leave you exposed, while she rises silently, untouchable, and unshakable. She doesn't need to retaliate, to argue, or to prove anything. Her power lies in restraint, intelligence, and the uncanny ability to turn chaos into clarity, betrayal into growth, and your attacks into lessons she uses to evolve. A Sigma female doesn't just survive your schemes, she redefines them. She turns your attention, your insults, and your pettiness into tools that fuel her presence, her influence, and her mastery over her own world. While you scramble to be seen as dominant, she becomes the standard by which dominance is measured. And the cruel, beautiful irony is that the harder you try to diminish her, the more her quiet strength exposes your flaws, your insecurity, and your short-sightedness. By the time the lesson hits, it's undeniable. You picked the wrong opponent, you played the wrong game, and she's already moved into a reality where you no longer exist. This isn't about vengeance, it's about inevitability. She doesn't chase you down, she doesn't call you out, she doesn't waste energy proving herself. She simply exists in a state of elevated composure, and in doing so she forces the world, and you, to confront your own smallness. Every look, every word, every choice you made to try to shame her now feels irrelevant because she's already written her own story, and you're only a footnote in it. So remember this: underestimating a Sigma female is a mistake that's impossible to undo. Her silence is louder than any insult, her growth sharper than any attack, and her evolution a quiet warning to anyone foolish enough to challenge her. If you found this breakdown powerful, mind-opening, or just downright intense, make sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a comment with your thoughts, and share this with someone who needs to understand the silent, unstoppable force of a Sigma female. Trust me, this is the kind of insight you'll want to revisit again and again.